Hello, Attorney Masa Sam Foray. I am back again, and I am founder of the Foray firm with offices in Houston and in Chicago. And today I'm back again to talk to you about all things related to immigration. So today's question is, how do I apply for a K-1 fiancé visa? So first of all, congratulations on getting engaged. A K-1 fiancé visa, for those of you who don't know, is also known as the 90-day fiancé visa. And if you have never watched that show and you want to have a good time with some good laughs, I highly recommend it. But I digress. So the question of the day is, how do you actually apply for a K-1 fiancé visa? So there are 5 things that you need to know. 5 steps. Number 1, you have to have met your fiancé face-to-face, kiss-to-kiss at least once in the last 2 years. As with many things with immigration, there are some exceptions, and so you want to make sure that you consult with a trusted immigration attorney, or make sure you do some research to find out whether or not you meet one of those exceptions. Otherwise, the rule is you have to have met face-to-face at least once in the 2 years before your application is submitted. Number 2, the application that you're actually going to submit is Form I-29F. Form I-29F is the USCIS form for a fiancé visa. Make sure you review it because a lot is at stake here. We're talking about your life. We're talking about your future marriage. And so that's the form that you will be submitting to USCIS in order to bring your fiancé to the United States. Number 3, so this is a multi-part bullet point. Number 3 is that your foreign fiancé is going to have to apply at a U.S. embassy or consulate abroad in their home country. Okay, and to be clear, in order to submit a Form I-29F or a fiancé visa, this is only for U.S. citizens who are applying for their foreign betrothed, their foreign fiancés who are not presently in the United States. Okay, and so your foreign fiancé who is not presently in the United States, who is back home, is going to have to go through a couple of different steps. Number 1, they will have to submit to a biometric screening, and if you scroll through my videos, you will find a little bit more information about what that means in more detail, but that's essentially fingerprinting and background check. So once they go through the biometric screening, they will also, of course, have to go through a medical exam to make sure that they are healthy, to make sure that when they come to the United States, they're not coming with any ailments or illnesses that will cause them to be more susceptible to being a public charge. And then, of course, they'll have to go through the interview process. And at the interview process, the consular officer is going to definitely be interested in any evidence you have to show that the relationship is genuine, evidence that you have to show that you guys have seen each other in the last 2 years, photographs, pictures, etc. are going to go a long way. Number 4, they are going to have to pass through customs. So they will have to come to the United States after they have received their visa. They will have to come through customs or through a border, and they will have to pass that second layer of interview and screening. And then number 5, once they get to the United States, you guys are going to have to get married within 90 days. So make sure you plan accordingly. It's a joyous occasion. It can be very stressful. And in this case, with a K-1 visa, it's something that is going to have to occur very rapidly after they arrive in the United States. Okay, and so let's talk a little bit more about the interview and flesh out some of the questions that your fiancé, your foreign fiancé, should expect at the interview. First question is going to be name. They want to know some biographical information about you. What is your name? Where were you born? What is your nationality? What city were you born in? What is your age? And some of these questions, while they may seem sort of mundane to the average person, there are many countries where children are still born outside of hospitals. I would suspect that most countries, certainly in the developing world, children are born outside of hospitals. They may be born in a village where there is no record of the birth. And so maybe the first time they've actually gotten a birth certificate is in anticipation of trying to obtain a visa to come to the United States. Be very clear of what your documents fiance. Be very clear about the information that was provided by your U.S. fiance so that when you go for the interview, you are ready to answer credibly and clearly without drawing any red flags or unnecessary attention to yourself. They might also ask you whether or not you have any relatives residing in the United States aside from your fiance. Again, all of these questions are geared towards making sure that what you said was honest and truthful, and also making sure that the relationship is genuine and that you have no ulterior motives for trying to come to the United States under the banner of being the fiance of a U.S. citizen. They'll ask you whether or not you have ever submitted a K-1 application. Have you ever submitted one and has it been denied? And then also, have you ever submitted one and it's been approved but you did not go forward with the marriage? So is this a second or subsequent K-1 fiance visa? Again, all of these questions are geared towards finding out your motivations and trying to weed out any sort of marriage fraud, which USCIS is particularly sensitive to. They'll ask you whether or not you have been married before. If you have been married before, it's quite acceptable, it's okay, but you're going to need to be prepared to show at the interview, and of course this would have been and should have been submitted along with your application, that marriage is successfully and legally terminated, either with a death certificate if you happen to be a widow or a widower, by a formal divorce decree that is signed by a judge, or an annulment certificate. You in some way, shape, or form need to show concrete evidence that any prior marriages have already been resolved and that you as a fiance are actually free to marry. They'll ask you about any children that you have. Again, wanting to know about who would be immigrating with you, and wanting to know about who, what the responsibility or burden the U.S. government might have to bear if you were unable to financially support yourself, and if for some reason your financial sponsor was unable to support you. And so they're going to be interested in knowing your family size and your family dynamic, and certainly about any dependents who you will be, bringing to the United States. They're going to ask you some questions about your relationship to sort of dig a little bit deeper about the genuineness of this. So where did you guys meet? How did you guys meet? They could ask you questions that are questions you already answered on your application, so make sure you review that. And they might ask you questions that were not on your application just to dig a little bit deeper. It's possible they could look on your social medias, both of your respective social media accounts. So just make sure that you understand and acknowledge that a K-1 visa is a wonderful way to come to the United States and to expedite the process of your path towards being a lawful permanent resident, and therefore expedite your path to becoming a citizen. But USCIS is very, very aware that there is a significantly high portion of fraud with marriage-based and therefore fiance-based visas. So just make sure that if you've met the love of your life, you guys happen to live in separate countries, and one of you is a U.S. citizen, make sure that you understand that this pathway is a wonderful opportunity, but it's really going to be limited to those who have a genuine and bona fide relationship. I hope that this has been helpful, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.